Hi everyone, we're going to talk about experimental probability. Now this is different from theoretical probability because theoretical is what should happen and experimental is what actually does happen. Say for example you have a coin has heads and tails. In theory we should be 50% for both. But we know that in real life we wouldn't exactly always get 50-50 if we toss a coin a certain number of times. It might be 50-50, but it won't always be exactly what we'd expect. So experimental is based on what we actually have happening. So for the first one here, we roll this six-sided die 6 times, and these are the actual results. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We happen to have 6, like it says here, 6 times. We've got 6 trials. So 6 trials. So out of those 6 trials, how many times did we get a 3? It actually happened twice. So our probability of 3, if we're doing experimental, based on this experiment, would actually be 2 out of 6, which is different from what it would be in theory. In theory, we should get probability of 3 1 out of every 6 times because there's only one 3 on a 6-sided die, 1 through 6. So this would be theoretical, and this would be experimental. And it is definitely okay that these are different because the experiment is what actually happens. So these are different because this is the theory of what should happen, and this is what actually did happen. So it's okay if it is different. For the next one here, we've got a coin flipped 9 times. So again, we would expect 50-50. So probability of getting heads, though, based on the experiment, may not be 50-50. So out of the 9 times, we just have to count how many heads we got. 1, 2, 3, 4 out of 9. So the experimental probability of getting heads would be 4 out of 9. That's the experimental. But again, we know theoretical would be probability of heads would be 1/2. And 4 out of 9 is not equal to 1/2, and that is okay. It's okay that our experiment is different from what we'd expect it to be. For the last one here, we have some cards. Same idea. We've got 10 cards that are randomly picked, and the results are shown. So the experimental probability of getting a spade, now there's 4 suits in a deck, so it should be the theoretical. The probability of a spade would be 1 out of 4 if it was theoretical, because again, there's 4 suits. But let's see what we actually got here. So out of 10, so probability of spade from experimental here would be just out of 10, how many times did we get a spade? So we just count how many spades we've got. 1, 2 here, 3 spades total. So our probability of spade would be 3 out of 10, which would be 30%. And then we thought in theory it should be 1/4, which is 25%. So again, they're different, and that's okay. The experimental is what actually happens. The theoretical is just what we think should happen, and it's okay if they're different.